The man just wanted to step outside for a smoke, but unknowingly yanked the doorknob right off. Danny noticed that the lock had a dial on it, thinking this was the first clue to escaping the room, and got excited like he was on a sugar high. Soon, Mike discovered a book, and inside it was a star-shaped screwdriver. Zoe noticed that the book's cover had the words Fahrenheit 451. Assuming it was one of the clues, she immediately started turning the dial on the door lock, and suddenly, the ceiling began to glow red. The group quickly realized the room's temperature was rising, and Amanda urged Zoe to turn it off, but it was too late. The dial seemed welded in place, so he went to the glass window in the reception area, hoping for a clue, but the person inside kept repeating that they should leave, and that someone would be there to get them soon. Zoe then realized something was off and told everyone that the person inside was probably just a recording and not a real person. Jason noticed there was a padlock on the window, and anyone who's played escape rooms knows that where there's a lock, there's a clue. They split up to search for the key, but a frustrated Ben refused to help and wanted to force their way out. He found a fire sprinkler, but unfortunately, it was just a plastic prop, so he tossed it aside. Then things got worse. 4 pillars began to glow red as a machine started up. The room's temperature rose rapidly, and everyone started to panic. Zoe then made another discovery. She found a key on one of the props. They used it to unlock the glass in the reception area, revealing a plastic mannequin inside. The phone rang, and when Jason answered, it was just a trivial message, telling them to follow all the rules. But after Jason angrily hung up, thick iron panels rose outside the windows, blocking all the light. Fans on the walls started up, causing the room's temperature to climb even higher. Amanda couldn't take it anymore and stripped off her jacket. Leaning against the wall and gasping for air, Zoe quickly poured her a glass of water. As everyone struggled to figure out what to do, Zoe noticed a hint on the water cooler. She rushed over to the table and found that the coasters could be pressed, causing a painting to rise 1/6 of the way, revealing a ventilation duct. But when Zoe released the coaster, the mechanism reset. Zoe pressed the coaster again, and the others quickly pressed the other coasters. Jason crawled into the duct first and found a grate blocking the way. Luckily, the star-shaped screwdriver they found earlier came in handy, but with 6 coasters to press down, they needed something else to hold them in place. Zoe came up with a plan and had Ben and Danny stand together. She filled a cup halfway with water from the cooler and placed it on the coaster, but it wasn't enough, so she filled the cup completely, which triggered the mechanism. Danny and Ben got to work, but they realized they only had enough water for 6 cups. Since Zoe had given Amanda half a cup earlier, they didn't have enough water left. Suddenly, the chandelier on the ceiling started to burst into flames, leaving them no time to think. Ben poured out the alcohol he had on him to use it. Once they escaped into the duct, the chandelier behind them erupted in flames, followed by an explosion, but luckily, they made it to another room. Danny thought it was just a scare tactic, that the game designers wanted them to think they escaped by sheer luck. They still hadn't realized this wasn't just a regular escape room. They all thought they were competing for the $10,000 prize, unaware they were risking their lives. Amanda, now terrified, looked into the camera and said she wanted out. She didn't want to play anymore. Seeing no response, she tried to call the police, but there was no signal. Meanwhile, as they argued, Jason managed to unlock the first lock, but the second one was a 7-letter word lock, so they all started searching the room for clues. Mike found a painting hanging on the wall. Jason thought it might be the president, so Zoe quickly rattled off the names of past presidents, each one with 7 letters, impressing Jason with her memory. While they tried to figure out the lock, Ben noticed something suspicious on one of the wall's specimens, each labeled with different letters. Suddenly, memories rushed back to him.
It's Rudolph.
Based on Ben's answer, they quickly unlocked the door. They stepped outside into a freezing cold environment. Going from extreme heat to freezing cold made them want to curse. As Zoe was the last to exit, the door suddenly locked behind them, trapping them outside. Zoe noticed a thermometer, showing the temperature at -1 degree and dropping fast. Danny, seemingly fearless, slid forward, but after crashing into a display screen, he fell flat on his face. The sound of cracking ice frightened Jason, but Danny, convinced it was all a prop, tapped on the ground and told everyone it was just special effects. Pointing at the cameras in the trees, he reassured them that they weren't in any real danger and that the organizers didn't want to face lawsuits. But he had no idea that he was about to be stuck here forever. Suddenly, 2 vents appeared below the screen, spewing cold white smoke. The 6 of them huddled together for warmth, but they couldn't move like this, so Danny suggested they split up to look for clues. Jason found an iron door that required a key. Amanda found a pile of junk, and Zoe discovered a line of text on the back of the junk. At the same time, Amanda found a red jacket. Mike found a husky figurine with its head tilted, and following its gaze, they saw a fishing rod in a tree. Jason told everyone about his findings, and when they saw the red jacket, they were visibly stunned. Amanda understood the organizers' intent to make them fight each other and told the cameras it wouldn't work. They decided to take turns wearing the jacket, handing it to Zoe first. Ben arrived and accidentally stepped into a fishing hole, catching everyone's attention. They thought there must be a clue down there, and Mike brought over the fishing rod, but when they lowered the line, they realized they had no idea what they were fishing for. Zoe found a compass in the red jacket's pocket. Remembering the clue she saw earlier, she quickly found a polar bear, reached into its mouth, and found a hooked magnet, which could be used with the fishing rod. Mike noticed and reeled in the line, revealing a square block of ice with a key inside. Jason thought of Ben's lighter, but Ben, still upset from being teased earlier, was reluctant. He tossed the lighter away, leaving them to pick it up themselves, and Danny had no choice but to retrieve it. But as he turned, the ice cracked beneath him, and Danny fell through. Zoe saw Danny under the ice, and Mike started stomping on the ice frantically. Amanda wanted to jump in and save Danny, but Jason stopped her. As they pounded on the ice, Danny drowned. It was only then that they realized this escape room was far from what they expected. Mike accused Ben of intentionally luring Danny. Everyone backed away from him by several feet, afraid that he might be the mastermind behind it all. But Ben was incredibly anxious because he was just a grocery store clerk, insignificant compared to the others. Jason realized that arguing was pointless and that the most important thing now was to get the key and leave. However, Zoe was still grieving Danny's death, accusing Jason of being cold and heartless. But Jason told her that if they didn't get out of there soon, hypothermia would cause them to lose their judgment. At that point, no matter how smart you are, you wouldn't know where you are. He then suggested everyone come over and use their hands to warm the ice block and melt it. As time passed, the temperature kept dropping, and they were so cold they couldn't speak. Mike put on the jacket and tightly held onto the remaining ice block. They took turns using their body heat to melt the ice. As Jason shivered from the cold, he realized that the situation seemed eerily familiar. It was just like the shipwreck he had survived before, where there was only one red jacket, and it was freezing cold. Just like now, as they were all about to pass out from the cold, Mike couldn't hold on any longer and let go of the ice block, which rolled over to Jason. He noticed that the key was finally accessible and quickly told everyone to get up. After unlocking the iron door, a wall not far behind them opened, and they immediately rushed through it. Thankfully, Zoe pulled Ben inside just in time, allowing them all to breathe a sigh of relief. Suddenly, the lights came on, revealing a billiard room, but strangely, the entire room was upside down. Then the room started to rise like an elevator. Once the room stabilized, the phone on the billiard table started ringing. As they wondered how to get the phone, the receiver suddenly dropped down. Mike picked it up, and a blast of ear-piercing music came out, causing them all to cover their ears in pain. Jason noticed a door above them with no handle, guessing it was the way out. Mike also realized that the billiard table was missing the 8-ball. Thinking the clue might be related to the pool game, as he was about to check the cue sticks, the music suddenly stopped. Then the floorboards below them started to fall away, and Ben quickly grabbed Mike. The music started again, and they realized they didn't have much time left to solve the puzzle. Amanda climbed onto the bar and found a combination lock requiring a 4-digit code. Mike suggested trying random numbers, but it wasn't that simple. Zoe noticed a jigsaw puzzle on the opposite wall and carefully crawled along the edge of the room to get to it. Seeing this, Mike followed and pulled Zoe up. Suddenly, the music stopped again, and this time, the floor beneath Jason gave way, but he managed to grab onto the baseboard. With no time to waste, Zoe quickly completed the jigsaw puzzle, but the scrambled image didn't reveal anything useful. Mike then had a revelation. He noticed that the yellow stripes on the puzzle matched the color of the 9-ball. So the first number might be 9, then the black ball in the middle likely represented the 8-ball, and the blue stripe on the floor was similar to the 10-ball. So maybe the code was 9810, but when Amanda entered the code, nothing happened. The music started again, and another large section of the floor fell away. Mike and Ben quickly joined Zoe on the other side and climbed up. Zoe noticed that the screws above her were loosening, and soon, the entire cabinet was hanging in midair. As Zoe tried to grab the cue stick on the wall, the cabinet started to give way, and she fell. Luckily, she landed on the floor, and memories began flooding back. She recalled a plane crash she survived, which had the same inverted scenario. Jason immediately jumped down and helped her up. Zoe suddenly realized that if they were in an upside-down room, then the clues they saw earlier should also be inverted. She told Amanda to try 0189, and it worked, revealing the missing 8-ball. The music stopped again, and Jason quickly grabbed onto the cabinet. Amanda pocketed the 8-ball and jumped, grabbing onto the edge of the pool table and slowly climbing up. As she hooked her feet over the table, the 8-ball slipped from her pocket. Without thinking, she let go to catch it, but before the ball could roll away, she grabbed it just in time. Just then, the music stopped again, and Amanda threw the 8-ball to Jason. She then leaped up and grabbed the receiver, but she realized the phone cord wouldn't support her weight. Jason, feeling a heavy heart, inserted the 8-ball into the door, successfully opening it, and the others quickly followed. Ben quickly pulled up the distraught Zoe, reminding her that it wasn't the time to mourn. Worried that there might still be danger inside, they hurried on. Jason reached the center of the new room, and suddenly a surgical light turned on. As Jason spoke, more lights came on. Mike noticed that one of the rooms looked exactly like the hospital room he had once been in, and they all realized they recognized their own past hospital rooms. Zoe mentioned surviving a plane crash where she was the sole survivor. Jason then talked about a fishing trip with his roommate, where a wave flipped their boat, nearly breaking his fingers. When they were stranded on the overturned boat, there was only one jacket. His roommate, unable to bear it, swam away the next day. 3 days later, Jason was rescued by a search team, and the doctors told him it was hypothermia that caused him to lose his judgment. Ben, on the other hand, had killed his friends in a drunk driving accident, yet he survived unscathed. Mike had been trapped in a mining accident, where he was the only survivor. Zoe realized that Danny and Amanda were also survivors of some sort of accident. Suddenly, a timer appeared on the screen, giving them less than 5 minutes. Zoe insisted that they shouldn't follow the organizers' rules, as they were only testing who was the luckiest. Ben asked what else they could do if they didn't look for clues, as they were all being monitored. Hearing this, Zoe suddenly grabbed a stick and began smashing the cameras on the walls. It was like Schrodinger's cat if the atom is constantly observed. Its state won't change. Zoe believed that if they wanted to escape, they had to find another way. Mike found a stack of x-rays, noticing 3 different hand signs. As they were puzzled by the meaning, Ben realized it was sign language, likely spelling out EKG, referring to an electrocardiogram. Jason then found a canister of gas and realized they would be poisoned when the timer hit 0. He quickly located the EKG machine, and the screen indicated that the correct heart rate would open the door. But when Ben tried, his heart rate was too slow, and it didn't work. Mike's heart rate was also not fast enough when it was his turn, and there was less than a minute and a half left. Jason thought of an idea and suggested using electric shocks to increase his heart rate, but even after several shocks, Mike's heart rate surpassed 200. Yet nothing happened, and Mike was left unconscious from the shocks. When Jason heard that it was about testing limits, he had another idea. He attached the electrodes to himself, and just as the timer hit 0, the gas canister started releasing toxic fumes. Jason immediately focused and began meditating, causing his heart rate to drop steadily until it fell below 50, triggering a success message on the screen. Suddenly, a light fixture on the wall opened up, and Jason quickly crawled inside without hesitation. Meanwhile, Zoe was still frantically searching for another way out. She was convinced there had to be another exit and told Ben not to worry about her. Seeing this, Ben had no choice but to crawl inside, and the door to the tunnel immediately closed. Zoe, no longer able to hold on, collapsed to the floor. Ben accused Jason of being cold-hearted, saying he killed Mike just to save himself. Reflecting on Jason's story about the shipwreck, Ben was certain Jason had killed his roommate to survive. He wasn't lucky, just ruthless. They found a rotating hatch, and together, they managed to open it quickly, but what they saw next left them in shock. Their fingers started to grow rapidly, and Ben's face began to melt, which terrified Jason. A clue on the panel indicated they needed to find an antidote, meaning they had been poisoned. Ben felt dizzy and could barely stand, but Jason refused to sit idly by, and Ben, seeing this, was spurred into action as well. In a frantic attempt, Ben accidentally opened a drawer, revealing a syringe. Jason lunged at him from behind, and as they wrestled for the antidote, the room's lights flickered. Just as Ben was about to grab the syringe, Jason twisted his leg, breaking it and causing Ben to curl up in pain. Jason reached for the syringe, But Ben, ignoring his injury, tackled Jason, knocking him away. Jason hit his head on a sharp corner of the wall, killing him instantly. Ben quickly injected the syringe into his thigh, and the hallucinations began to fade. He crawled to the door and kicked open the metal grate, uncontrollably falling through. He spotted a large door and hobbled over to it, but there were 4 slots and 10 numbers above it, another puzzle to solve. When he pulled down one of the numbers, gears started turning in the room. The wall behind him began to compress, and Ben found a sketch on the table, which hinted that following the light would lead to another person. Taking it literally, he quickly found a green book under one of the lights. The puzzle seemed to involve time, but there was no clock in the room. Then he noticed several paintings on the moving wall. Following the life and death clue, he saw something odd in the paintings. The hands in the portraits pointed in different directions, and Ben realized they were indicating the position of a clock's hands. Based on the paintings, the code should be 4862, but after he entered all the numbers, the door wouldn't open. The walls kept closing in, shrinking the space, and a wooden spike pierced Ben's thigh. As he was about to be crushed, Ben crawled forward and found a shield on the floor, hiding in the fireplace. As the wall kept moving forward, it broke through the opposite wall, revealing a way out. Ben noticed a screen showing only his picture without a red X. As he stared in disbelief, a figure appeared, telling Ben that he was the only survivor and revealing that he was the game's designer. He explained that he was merely following the orders of the wealthy, who wanted to know if luck truly played a role. Seeing Ben successfully escape the escape room proved that luck does exist, but Ben only wanted to know if he had won the game. His main concern was whether he could safely go home, as Ben was about to be strangled to death. On the other side, Zoe, unconscious, was discovered by a group of people in hazmat suits who opened the door. After confirming that there were 2 bodies, they suddenly saw an oxygen mask hanging in midair. Zoe suddenly woke up, knocking them out. She grabbed a gun and ran out, just in time to see Ben fighting back against Wooten Yu. Ben pulled the wooden spike from his thigh and stabbed Wooten Yu in the leg, but as Ben hesitated, Zoe quickly pulled the trigger. Seeing that the enemy was dead, she dragged the injured Ben out of the building. When the police took Zoe back to the crime scene, they found nothing but rubble, with no evidence of the escape room she described. The hospital tests found more than 3 illegal substances in Ben's blood, leading them to believe it was a hallucination that caused them to make a false report. But the police didn't want to waste time. 6 months later, Zoe, through relentless efforts, discovered information about the others. Mike's death was staged as a sudden heart attack, Jason's as a car accident, Danny's death was faked as drowning, and Amanda's as a fatal fall while rock climbing alone. Zoe found a symbol on the box she received, showing a pattern of 3 sets of looping stairs with 22 and 23 steps each, which she believed were coordinates. She discovered an unregistered industrial building in the heart of Manhattan, but Minus discovered their plan and prepared a plane-themed escape room to trick them into thinking they were in a plane crash. But Zoe's fear of flying caused her to turn around and flee the airport at the last minute, unintentionally saving them. Ben suggested they drive instead, but when they arrived, Zoe found the place was nothing like what she had researched. The video from 2 days earlier showed workers bustling about, but now the place was deserted. Zoe climbed over the fence and slipped inside, only to be confronted by a homeless man who told them the place had been shut down. As they stood there confused, the homeless man reached out and snatched Zoe's pendant from her neck. Realizing what had happened, they chased after him. The homeless man jumped into a train car, and they followed. But just as they were about to catch up, the homeless man jumped out of the car. At that moment, the train doors closed, and the homeless man taunted them with Zoe's pendant, infuriating them. As they sat down, Zoe felt something was off. Why were there only a few people in the car? She went to the control room and found there was no conductor. Then, the connection between the train cars suddenly broke, drawing everyone's attention with their screams. When the car reached a fork in the track, it suddenly changed direction. The car made a sharp turn, causing the passengers in the back to fall over. Rachel rushed forward to pull the emergency brake, but the handle was broken. Theo tried to call his girlfriend to say goodbye but realized there was no signal. Zoe and Ben saw the end of the tracks ahead, and everyone was thrown into the air. Rachel tried to open the door but found it was as if it had been welded shut. Theo pressed the emergency call button, signaling to the camera that they were trapped. Ben finally realized that Minus had found them, and the others looked at him in shock when they heard the name Minus. Brianna covered her head, trembling uncontrollably, and Zoe suddenly realized something. They were all survivors of previous games, and Theo had been forced to wear a hearing aid. He had been trapped in a submarine escape room before, and now facing another challenge. He was furious, pounding on the subway doors. At that moment, Ben began to regret not convincing Zoe earlier, blaming himself for their situation. Zoe comforted him, saying that if they escaped once before, they could do it again, but Rachel insisted that it was impossible. Every game only had one winner, and there was no way two people could survive together. What they didn't know was that Zoe had escaped the escape room by breaking the rules. Suddenly, the sound of machinery starting up echoed through the car, and the lights began flickering. The ceiling was filled with metal mushrooms that emitted visible bolts of electricity. Zoe accidentally touched a handrail and was electrocuted, causing her watch to shatter. Nathan found a bag under a seat containing a towel and a metal handle. Brianna noticed something suspicious in the middle of the car, and when she peeled back the metal panel, she discovered an escape hatch sealed with glass. Theo remembered the hint about reporting any suspicious items to the transportation staff. He grabbed the metal handle and tried to open the door to the control room, but the entire car was electrified, making it impossible to touch any metal objects. Cleverly, Theo undid his belt, wrapped it around the metal handle, and successfully opened the control room door. Inside, the voltage was extremely high, and Theo saw a coin slot with the number 9 displayed above it. Zoe also noticed the hint on the door, instructing them to find and remove all incorrect advertisements. But Brianna realized that all the ad frames were made of metal, so they needed an insulating tool to handle them. Ben remembered seeing a strange ad when they first boarded and noticed it was missing a letter. Rachel instructed everyone to start searching immediately, and soon Nathan found another ad with a missing word. Zoe analyzed the meaning of the hint and suddenly noticed that the car had exactly 26 metal grab handles. Thinking that if they found the correct order, they could pull down the handles corresponding to the missing letters to reveal a clue. Brianna rummaged through the bag and found a rubber lining, which she then cut into pieces and distributed to everyone. Rachel noticed that the grab handles at the ends were different colors, one green, one red, so Zoe decided to start from the green end, and when she counted to the third handle, it corresponded to the letter C. She nervously wrapped the rubber around the handle, and when she pulled it down, a C fell out, and the LED screen above them displayed 2CS. But then, suddenly, the entire car went dark, and when Zoe inserted a coin, the number changed to 8, prompting the others to follow suit. Brianna quickly found another letter, and Ben discovered one as well. When Theo and Mike pulled down the corresponding handles at the same time, 2 coins dropped out. Just then, a bolt of lightning shot from one of the ad frames, narrowly missing Brianna, and the entire car turned into a lightning field, constantly discharging electricity. They frantically searched for more handles, racing against time. With every handle they pulled down, the voltage increased. They were forced to crawl on the floor, but that made it impossible to see the ad frames above. When Theo saw a station sign, he stood up despite the danger. As he spotted the remaining missing letters, a bolt of lightning struck, sending Theo flying into the handrail, where he convulsed from the electric shock. Rachel grabbed the rubber on the floor and rushed over, successfully separating Theo from the handrail. But it was too late, he was already dead. By then, the map had been destroyed, leaving everyone clueless about what Theo had seen before he died. But then, Zoe looked at the LED screen and suddenly realized something. She told everyone that the missing letters were W, D, and O. Working together, they quickly retrieved the remaining coins. Ben inserted the final coin, unlocking the escape route. They all jumped in and soon arrived at another location. They were stunned by the luxurious decor and noticed a large vault door across the room. As Brianna took a step forward, she activated the deadly laser grid in the room. She tried to step back, but the moment her back touched the laser, it sliced through her flesh. Rachel realized that the tile Brianna was standing on was the trigger, and when Brianna stepped off it, the laser deactivated. Nathan found a key inside a lollipop, and Zoe discovered several safety deposit boxes on either side. She thought they might find clues inside them, so she climbed over the counter. Fortunately, the lasers weren't triggered inside the counter. Inside, she found a floor plan and began trying the key on each deposit box. Brianna also found another key and joined Rachel inside the other counter. Meanwhile, Nathan discovered an ATM, which suddenly activated. When they learned it required a 4-digit code, Ben got excited. He noticed that all the safety deposit boxes had numbers except one, which had a name instead. Brianna found a similar box on her side. When Ben inserted the key, the counter rose by 1 level, and diamonds spilled out of the deposit box. Zoe tried to pick them up but cut her finger. Brianna also managed to open her deposit box. but inside, she only found 2 stacks of empty bills. Ben's brain was in overdrive as he recalled the hint from the ATM about compensating for lost loved ones. He realized it meant blood money, and Rachel quickly grabbed the empty bills and ran out. As she stepped onto the counter, she triggered the laser grid. Thankfully, she reacted in time, and Nathan narrowly avoided being hit. When Rachel stepped off the counter, the laser deactivated. Nathan handed the remaining stack of bills to Ben. Zoe smeared her bleeding finger on the bills and discovered the code 0526. When Nathan entered the code, the international clocks began to turn. Nathan found a clue on the ATM, suggesting they map out the hours of the day and count steps based on the minutes. Smartly, Nathan realized that, according to the clocks, 12 o'clock was a straight line, and 3 o'clock was to the right. Zoe guided him using the map, telling him that 7 o'clock was in the third grid. Nathan then used the lollipop to mark his path, but when he reached the final step, he triggered another mechanism, and a deposit box popped out on Brianna's side. Mike's tile also displayed a hint. Meanwhile, Ben and the others were still frantically searching for the code. With time running out, Nathan decided to take a wild guess. Each step he took made everyone's hearts race. Ben quickly ordered them to pull Nathan up, narrowly avoiding the lasers. Luckily, Nathan avoided the lasers but knocked himself out. Ben recalled the clue Nathan mentioned earlier: money makes the world go round. Never stop. Suddenly, Brianna realized it was a combination lock. She found a film strip inside and tossed it to Ben and the others. Zoe took charge of directing, while the others followed her instructions. Ben quickly carried Nathan across the black and white tiles, and Zoe joined them at the last moment. But just as they thought they were safe, another crisis emerged. The entire cave began to collapse, giving them no time to catch their breath. After escaping the cave, the environment they found themselves in gave them a sense of abandonment. Brianna discovered an old-fashioned camera near the railing and took a picture of the beach. Suddenly, a blinding white light flashed, and when they recovered, the scene had turned into a sunset. Brianna noticed a hint on the photo she had taken. She then tossed the camera aside, and the group began searching for traps. What they didn't notice was that the camera was slowly being swallowed by the sand. Zoe reflected on the subway and vault rooms, realizing they seemed to tell a story, but it didn't seem to relate much to them. Rachel found an anchor symbol on a door and believed that finding the corresponding item could open it. Ben discovered a pile of debris. Rachel told them to search for an anchor, and soon they found a metal detector. They scoured the beach and found 2 strange mannequins. One of them was wearing seashell glasses, while the other, a little girl, was looking up at the other. Zoe uncovered an SOS distress signal in the sand and made a mental note of it. Mike used the metal detector and found something beneath the sand. When they dug it up, they actually found the anchor. Ben dragged it toward the house, but suddenly the other end of the rope seemed to catch on something. It felt like a tug of war, and then the rope snapped, causing Ben to fall. They realized something beneath the sand was pulling on the rope, and suddenly the anchor was dragged back into the sand. Ben made a dive for it and got sucked into the sand. Just as they pulled Ben out, Rachel was swallowed by the sand. Brianna found a lifebuoy but was too late to save her. They could only watch helplessly as Rachel was pulled under the sand. But then Nathan did something incredible. He tied the rope around himself and dove into the sand to rescue Rachel. Sadly, just as he was about to climb out, the rope snapped. As the sand churned, the others retreated to the house. Brianna used the anchor to open the door, finding a locked fridge inside but no sign of the power cord. Zoe noticed something suspicious about the lighthouse, which had a button on it. When she pressed it, the sand outside began to churn violently, and the daylight suddenly turned to night. The lighthouse beamed a spotlight, and handholds popped out of the tower wall, allowing them to climb up. As the house began to shake, Zoe rushed outside and climbed to the top of the lighthouse. Through the telescope, she saw a clue. Ben also ran out, repeatedly muttering the hint, "I can't see." He suddenly remembered the seashells on the mannequin's face, but by then, the mannequin was almost completely swallowed by the sand. Taking a risk, Ben grabbed the seashells and found a plug inside. He rushed back to the house, while Zoe noticed a strange moon symbol on the wall. She dismantled the telescope and pried open the round moon symbol, revealing a passageway. Meanwhile, Brianna managed to open the fridge and found another passage inside. Ben trusted Zoe's intuition and persuaded Rachel and Brianna to take the other route. Thinking they might avoid the next escape room, Rachel was convinced and climbed up the lighthouse, but Brianna didn't want to take the risk. With time running out, Ben had no choice but to leave. But just as he reached the lighthouse, the stairs retracted, and he was too late. He fell into the sand and was swallowed instantly. When they emerged from the tunnel, It didn't look like an escape room at all. They heard sirens in the distance. When they opened a manhole cover, they found themselves on a city street. But before they could celebrate, Brianna suddenly appeared, trying to climb out of the tunnel they had just escaped from, but it was too late. The room's walls, which were actually screens, shifted, turning the area into another escape room. Brianna warned them that when the timer hit 0, acid rain would pour down, and they needed to find the key to the grocery store quickly. They found a hint under a shutter. Rachel instinctively took a few steps back and noticed a neon sign with a rain symbol above it. Next to it was a ladder that led upward, and she guessed the key was hidden up there. Brianna quickly climbed up and found the key, but when they unlocked the shutter, they found another glass door locked inside. The countdown on the streetlights hit 0. Luckily, a canopy above them dropped down, shielding them from most of the acid rain, but a few drops burned their skin. When the acid rain stopped, the countdown restarted, and the TV in the grocery store displayed a message. It said that citizens had begun collecting rainwater for environmental reasons. Suddenly, a phone booth on the street rang. Zoe noticed a chain and a plastic lock on it. Thinking that collecting acid rain could melt the lock, they started searching for containers to collect the acid rain. Brianna found a ketchup bottle that hadn't melted, and Rachel quickly grabbed it. She noticed it was made of PMP plastic, which could hold acid rain, so she placed it out in the open. They hid under another umbrella. When the acid rain stopped, Rachel grabbed the bottle and poured it over the plastic lock, quickly melting it away. But when Zoe picked up the phone, there was no response. Then, she found a clue inside the phone booth. It said to call them back when the weather cleared. Zoe stepped out of the booth, thinking it had something to do with the taxi. Brianna shouted for Zoe to come back, but Zoe told her that the phone booth couldn't fit all three of them. With time running out, Rachel found an umbrella in the phone booth and tossed it to Zoe just as the countdown neared 0. Zoe was distracted by an advertisement nearby, which had 3 diamonds and the word triplet underneath. She realized it was connected to the phone booth. She instructed Rachel to answer the phone after the 3rd ring. At that moment, the taxi door opened, and Zoe quickly jumped inside to take shelter from the rain. When the acid rain stopped, Rachel and Brianna tried to get in the taxi, but the doors suddenly closed. To their horror, they had less than 20 seconds before the next acid rain started. As they tried to return to the phone booth, the booth's door also closed. With every passing second, Zoe grew more desperate. Unable to find a way to open the taxi doors, she tried kicking the windows, but they wouldn't break. Rachel, accepting her fate, began comforting Brianna. As the acid rain turned Rachel and Brianna into mush, Zoe was consumed with guilt, furiously kicking the car door in frustration. Suddenly, the seat collapsed, and Zoe fell into the car's interior. Meanwhile, in the minus control room, a technician noticed an anomaly in the chute. The boss realized that an escape room that hadn't been activated yet was in use and asked what was going on. The technician explained it was a last-minute change made 3 days ago. Wondering if the boss wasn't aware of it, the boss ordered the game to continue and left the control room. Meanwhile, Zoe was injected with an unknown substance and then groggily woke up. A stranger who introduced herself as Claire told Zoe that she needed her help. At that moment, Zoe noticed a pile of items that were eerily similar to the ones in the escape room she had previously experienced. Realizing that the little girl she saw in the sand was actually Claire, it turned out that all of this was related to Claire's story. Claire didn't mince words and admitted that she designed all the escape rooms, but she was forced to do so by her father. Claire then opened her computer and told Zoe that when she designed the sand trap, she included a hidden escape hatch. She assured Zoe that Ben was now in a safe room, but suddenly, on the screen, Ben was grabbed by a group of people and thrown into a sauna escape room. Claire told Zoe that this was not her doing. It must have been her father who found out about their plan. If Zoe wanted to help Ben, she needed to help Claire escape and access the only computer with administrative privileges in her father's study. Claire explained that she chose Zoe because she was the smartest person she had ever met. She pointed to the game on the wall, saying that if Zoe could solve it, they could obtain the password. The pattern on the left was connected to the number on the right, and she only had 3 chances to input the password correctly. If she exceeded that, they would suffocate to death. Seeing Ben struggling with the puzzle on the screen, Zoe decided to trust Claire for the moment, but before Zoe could start deciphering the images, they suddenly switched to different ones. It was clear they had to solve the puzzle within a set time. Zoe quickly realized that these puzzles had no apparent connection. She stood in the corner, observing the screen, and suddenly noticed an image that Claire couldn't see. The first difference was a pentagon, the second was a cross-section of a nautilus shell, and the third was a DNA molecule. Claire quickly understood the meaning. They all followed the golden ratio, so they entered 1618, but the password was incorrect. Zoe asked her to write the symbol for the golden ratio, but they found it had no connection to the puzzle. Then Claire suddenly realized that the letters on the icons were lowercase, so she wrote the lowercase letters for the golden ratio on the glass. At that moment, Claire finally understood the solution, but when she stepped out of the room, the bodyguard who had come back to rescue her was severely injured. Her father had also returned and stabbed Claire. However, the wounded bodyguard seized the opportunity to fire a shot, and Claire pushed her father into the room and locked the door. She then instructed Zoe to go and save Ben. They quickly made their way to the study, and on the other side, Ben was barely holding on. Fortunately, Claire managed to rewrite the system in time, saving Ben's life. With Claire's help, Zoe quickly drove to the factory, only to find it had already been raided by the police. Ignoring the officers' attempts to stop her, she rushed inside, finally relaxing when she saw that Ben was safe. Meanwhile, when Claire returned to the glass room, she angrily confronted her father.
I hope that my own mother could love me for who I really was.
Put them back.
Put them back. I want them all.
I wasn't afraid.
To prove her talent, she had designed the sauna escape room that killed her mother. Her father had stolen all of her work and then trapped her in the glass room.
You and Mom are gonna be so proud of me when you see what I can really do.
Goodbye, Dad.